Welcome to Crystal Clear Moments, where we explore the beauty and depth of crystal clear moments in life. I'm your host, Crystal Blackwell, and I invite you to join me on a journey of reflection and discovery. Today, I have here a friend, someone that I call as a friend, someone who's an activist, a leader in our community, leader actually nationwide. I'm sure has made some impact globally. We'll probably talk a little bit about that as he's like nodding his head like, I didn't know that about me, but yeah, that is you. But you know, before we dive into it, even though I know you personally, I want you to share with the podcasters here at Crystal Clear Moments. You tell us a little bit about you.
Wow, I thought you were going to use my bio and just talk about me.
Remember you never gave me your bio. I had to research.
My bad. I owe you one.
That's all right. It's okay.
Well, my name is Clovis Campbell. I am a second-generation Arizonan, born and raised here. Currently, I am the publisher of the Arizona Informant Newspaper. We've been in publication for 53 years now. And I'm also the executive director for the Arizona Commission of African American Affairs for the state of Arizona. I also additionally was in the state legislature for 2 terms. And I also served as chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association for 4 years and served on that board for about 20 years. So been kind of around the corner and back up the street.
I really admire all that you bring to the table. I'll share a story, but you may or may not know. My husband and I, we moved here, of course, from Midwest to Arizona in late 80s. And the first thing his uncle told us to do was get the Arizona Informant. And you probably have heard that story a million times.
And I love hearing that story.
Yeah, and it's real, and we've been steady getting our paper every week, and you're right, and I grew up, in my hometown, Indianapolis. I grew up reading, the Recorder.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up reading Black news. That's a big part of, who I am and a big part of how I got my news. So I was very excited to know that Phoenix had an Arizona informant. Oh, yeah. I really felt like I was tapped into a community, my community being very new to the Valley. I was still creating my space. And we have since, of course, we love that part. But I love the story. I love the Clovis Campbell family story in terms of, your dad and, what he's done. Even though I'm not a native, I still, feel like, his contributions impacted me and my family. If you don't mind, share a little bit about your dad and his impact in Arizona.
Well, you mentioned that Ivan's relative said to get the newspaper, who was, I think, Dr. Green.
Yes.
Okay, and so he was friends with my dad. But going back, my dad was a photographer early on. He worked for one of the older Black newspapers in the 50s and 60s, where he was taking pictures, writing stories, and kind of fell in love with that. From there, he was also a community activist. He worked with the NAACP. He worked with different organizations, his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. And so he was always in the community eye and doing things. Eventually, he ran for office. The first time he didn't win. And he went back and talked to some people, learned about what he needed to do. And in 1961, he was elected to his first term in the State House of Representatives. So from there, he served 3 terms there and then moved into the Senate, which no other Black person had ever done before, and ended up getting elected as the first Black state senator in Arizona in 1966. So he served there for a couple of terms and continued working. He ran for Secretary of State. He also was served in the National Newspaper Publishers Association board, just as I'm doing now. And he also worked at Arizona Public Service for 33 years in addition to while he was there all the time doing everything else. So he stayed pretty active up until we lost him. And he was actually working at the newspaper when he had a heart attack and passed away. So, he was actually doing what he loved to do, and he did it well. Outside of all those other things, he found time to coach Pop Warner football, to lead some organizations and things like that. So I think that kind of, was instilled in me, and I've been trying to follow in his footsteps for all that time.
Yeah, good for you. That's some big shoes to fill, But what I like, what it sounds like your dad, he just loved the community.
Absolutely.
Like he had a heart for the community, and he wasn't afraid of doing the work, which I think oftentimes people can love the community, right? And I'm sure you talk and you run across, and they don't have the work in them.
Exactly. He wrote a book that was called "I Refuse to Leave the Hood." And when he was young, he moved to Phoenix when he was probably 10 years old. His parents moved here, or his mother moved here because they said she had tuberculosis. They came from Louisiana, and they wanted better air conditioning, things like that. Come to find out, she was only here a year and died from tuberculosis. So they left 9 kids by themselves to kind of bring each other up. So from that, he moved into South Phoenix, stayed in the projects for a while with some of the people that you've probably seen around here that are businessmen now. And, they lived together, worked together. And he said, hey, I like this community and I'm not going to leave. So as he continued to progress in his career, politics, business, etc., he never left South Phoenix. And so, I've been that same way. I had my brief stint where my wife wanted to move to Ahwatukee.
I remember that.
But we moved back to
Which is like
Phoenix.
South Phoenix. It's still it's like on the other side of the mountain.
Ahwatukee is called South Phoenix.
Right, yeah.
So,
That's true.
We, from there, if you get a chance to read his book, it talks about everything he's done, but it also talks about the commitment to the community and the neighborhood that you live in.
Right. That's awesome to have that legacy. And not only that, he leaves the legacy of yourself and your family. There's a school, of course.
Clovis Campbell Elementary School in South Phoenix.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that probably the most, because if nothing else stands for community and excellence, is when you invest in education.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And especially with our younger generation. So, forever and a day, that's going to be connected, So that has to warm your heart when you think about it. I'm sure it does.
It's pretty cool. People come up and it's funny when I see people and they say, oh, my kids go to your school. Well, it's not my school.
Right.
It's named after my dad, but the same name. And then when I walk onto the campus, because we always support things there at the school, and they'll say, here's Mr. Campbell, and the kids will look at you like, oh my, this is the man whose name. And it's refreshing, it's humbling, and it's definitely something that I'm proud of. I worked hard for them to name that school after him when they were building new schools in the South Phoenix area. So it's kind of like a crowning moment for the family.
Yes, good. That's good. And thank you for your work there, because it does take us pushing hard for what we want. Definitely. And having a clear strategy and holding people accountable for doing the right thing. That's the right thing there, having that name on that school. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So what was your crystal clear moment to say, I wanted to be part of the Arizona Informant publication family? I know you're born into it, so but there had to be a moment when you said, I want to do this. I want to work here. I want to make this part of me.
Well, let me tell you when I decided that I didn't want to work there.
Okay.
When they first started the newspaper, we would deliver it by hand. Just driving around the community. Old school. Throwing it out in the yard, and some people threw it back at us. So I was a delivery kid. We would load up the car, this little bitty Volkswagen with the papers, roll them up, and my dad would drive, and he would sling them into the people's Porsches.
Really?
And then he would send me out to little smaller neighborhoods and just take a handful and drop them off. So I was doing that for a few months, and one day he decided to set me up and gave me the papers and said, I need you to go to that place over there and get those 10 houses. He knew that there was this dog that was at that yard every day.
He knew it.
He knew it was there.
It.
And he sat there and watched me go to the first house, go to the second house, go to the next house. I finally got to the dog house. He was waiting. I mean, he laughed so hard because I threw those papers up in the air, took off running back to the car.
Yes.
And he laughed the whole time.
He set you up.
Oh, he set me up big. That's when I said, to hell with this newspaper.
Right. I want to be a paper boy.
I'm doing something. I'm playing football. I'm going to do something else. So I, grew up a little bit, left here, graduated from high school, went to college in California, knocked around, tried to play some professional sports for a couple of years, came back home. He said, well, you might as well come back and work at the newspaper.
Yeah.
I said, well, is there money in it? He says, I think there's.
No, that's right.
I need some money.
I need some money.
And so he said, yeah, we got some opportunities here for you, and you won't get rich, but you will be rich in history and learn about things. So
let's, if we could pause there. So let's like kind of put a pin in that space. So your dad said that you won't get rich financially, but you'll be rich in history and culture and community and all those values, right? So you was what, 20s? How old was you?
I was late 20s.
Oh, so what? How did that sound to you?
It sounded like I wanted some money.
I know, right? It's like he was selling you something.
Exactly. But what happened was he said, well, look, come to one of the conferences with the newspaper organization, see what you think, and then you come from there. So I went to New Orleans for a conference with him and my mom, and I had the best time I had in a long time. I met a lot of dynamic publishers. Everybody there owned their own newspaper. Yeah. They were excited about it. This was in the 80s. So it was a real eye-opener for me to see all, when I first got there, the first thing I said was, where all these black people come from? Where are the white folks? Right.
Yeah.
And so he started laughing and said, this is New Orleans. Yeah. It's a lot of black people here.
A whole lot, yeah.
And he was from upstate New Orleans, upstate Louisiana, so he knew everything about it. So I came back home and he says, well, what do you think? I said, I think I can do it. He says, well, we're going to start you doing some layout and doing, janitorial work and whatever we needed from you. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, I'll do it.
So you started from the bottom.
Oh,
you did all. So you've done all the roles in the business.
Absolutely.
So you know every role within the.
I know every aspect.
Clovis,
from
that's cool.
Cleaning to taking pictures, and then he introduced me to the sales side.
Yeah.
And that's when my eyes opened up because I made more money than I ever thought I was going to make. Yeah. Working at the newspaper.
Something about commission, huh?
Yeah. That commission was, it was something else. It opened my eyes up to that. At that time, there was a big boom in the industry where a lot of different corporations were doing advertising, trying to reach out to the African American community, and the best way to do it was through the Black Press of America. Of course, we had Black Radio, but Black Radio didn't give you that touch, that feel, that photo that you could see yourself doing something. And so we sold that for quite a while, still doing it today. And I brought on my daughter, who works with us. I'm bringing my son on, even though he's doing his own thing. He'll eventually be there. Yeah. So it was a real good opportunity. I stayed in that, then moved into the some of the executive positions within the organization. I served on the board for almost 25 years. Wow. And then I eventually was elected chair of the organization back in 2010, something like that, right after I'd finished working in the legislative field. Good point about the legislature thing is that when I got elected, I was elected exactly 40 years to the day that he was first elected.
You're kidding. Really?
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that until my wife, Lynette, she mentioned, she said, look at these dates. And we looked at it, and it was right there. So it was something that was supposed to happen.
It was. Definitely.
And unfortunately, he wasn't there to see it. Yeah. But a lot of his friends, called me and congratulated me that he'd been working with for years, like Maxine Waters and Merv Dimely, some of those old politicians. So it was good to have his name because I could walk into a room and they would be expecting to see him.
And then you pop in.
And I probably said, no, you're too young to be Clovis. And so it's been a good ride. Yeah, it's been a good ride.
Good. And you've honored it well.
I've tried.
We're all people, but you work hard to honor that, and I think that's an example for a lot of us that families leave us legacy, and sometimes they leave us legacy in terms of business, and oftentimes legacy of values.
Absolutely.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So I think both, I think we have to honor. So I think it's important. You're demonstrating that. And I appreciate it, and others do, I know, don't be hard on yourself. You're over there like, oh no, but no, they do. So what I wanted to read was this, and I've read this so many times. So this Arizona Informant, this is the January 3rd edition. So when you guys hear this podcast, it's going to be in Black History Month, because I specifically wanted Clovis to talk about, the Arizona Informant, because it is Black History for Black History Month. So this is, and thank you for, accepting this invitation. But I love this, and it's on here every time. 98% of our news you won't find in any other news media in Arizona. I almost want to say you can stretch that beyond Arizona. You know what I mean? I do. But I love that, because you put, not only do you do local news, that people aren't, our local papers or media,
absolutely.
National media is not going to pick up, but you also expanded to the nation and also the world.
Yes.
So that's why I was like, I don't know about that. You might want to look at that again.
Well, we're in an association with over 235 other Black newspapers. And so we share a lot of information, which people don't see in the daily news or on TV. So that makes us unique. Also, the fact that, we've been around for a while gives us some credibility, and people want to look for it like you and Ivan did when you came to town. But the other issue is that, we record Black history every time we put a publication together each week. Those are news stories that nobody can take away from us. And as you know now, things are happening in education where they're trying to not teach about Black history or tell the story a different way.
Yeah.
And so this gives us an opportunity to have it in print, a story from us, for us, by us, so that when our young people go to listen and learn about Black history, you can see it in print. Because the worst thing that can happen right now, as much as we love the digital age, all it takes is one button to erase your history. And so our goal is to continue to print. We'll have the digital presence and all those things, but the print mechanism is the one that keeps our history alive, doesn't allow folks to whitewash our history, if I can, and it keeps people engaged, because when a person sees their picture in a printed publication, it's different. I mean, anybody can post up something on social media and on TV now. So when you see that printed piece,
you're right, definitely.
One person will say, "Hey, man, my picture was in the paper. Can I come by and buy 100 copies?" That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
That's true. And it's something about when you're recognized and honored by your own.
Definitely.
It is something about when there's a story about you or about your accomplishments or about what you're doing. When it shows up in the Arizona Informant, everybody that is anybody's going to see that, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's a good feeling. And I don't think we can encourage each other enough.
Well, that's our goal. One of the things that my dad instilled was that, hey, we're going to highlight the heroes and sheroes in our community, because the other publications and other news media is going to talk about us in a bad way. They're never going to say something that happened with our young students going to Harvard, or we have other kids that are, simple things like homecoming king or queen, or someone in our community gets recognized by their organization. Those things just don't happen in a daily newspaper or on TV for us. They might do it for other folk, but not for us. So this was our opportunity to make sure that we highlight and also educate people on who we are in the community and who the real players are. Because you can, right now we're finding out that people are trying to anoint some folks as our leaders, and they've done nothing in our community. They haven't done the work, but they go out and get a bunch of followers on Facebook and Instagram and think all of a sudden they're a leader.
No relationships built.
Nothing. And I tell them all the time, I say, you can go outside and call yourself a leader with those folks, but when you turn around and look at who's following, you're just another Black person taking a stroll.
Absolutely. That's as they would say. Yeah, facts. Definitely. So I'm going to switch to something that I don't think you guys get a lot of credit, because everybody's doing it. But even though we're talking about this is going to air in Black History Month, our History Month. Every month is our History Month, but it's Juneteenth.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I bring that up, because when we moved here in the late 80s, you guys had the only celebration.
Yep.
East Lake Park, right?
Yeah.
For Juneteenth. And it was a big celebration. The park was packed, families. And then we were young adults, so we was hanging out, having a good time.
Having a great time.
Everybody had to go. You had to be there, right? It was hot. You had your little outfits on. But it really struck me because, now we fast forward, a lot of communities are doing it. But I don't think that people recognize that you guys set that up. You guys laid out that blueprint of celebrating Juneteenth.
Well, we actually carried the legacy. What happened was it wasn't East Lake Park in the early 70s.
Oh, it wasn't?
It was there. It was there.
Okay.
And it was there for many years.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, one year they had a parade, and they had some horses going through. One of the horses passed out and died right in front of the park. So some folks, and I'll say some folks, decided that it was too hot to celebrate Juneteenth in June, so they wanted to move it to February. And I looked at my wife, I said, these folks got to be crazy. They're not moving 4th of July to February because it's hot in July just as it is in June.
It's actually worse in July.
Exactly. So they tried to move it to February one year and called it Febteenth. Okay, so
that's crazy.
It was a slap in the face. And so we said, look, we can put this thing on. So we moved and started up at South Mountain College for a few years. And then once we got the permission from the city of Phoenix to move it back, we came back in 2001, 2002. So we've been doing it we started in the late 90s doing it, picking up where everybody started.
Right. Yeah.
And we've been at Juneteenth ever since. And we've been at East Lake Park ever since.
Which I love that. It's cool. I mean, again, that's tradition, that's legacy, and that's a blueprint.
Yeah.
Because which is a good thing. I'm glad we have like City of Mesa, City of Chandler, City of Scottsdale. We have all these other cities that really do great job honoring Juneteenth. But you guys led the way.
Well, Phoenix is the capital city.
Yes.
And all the outlying cities decided, hey, we want to do something to honor it, which we were so happy to see.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we try to do more with Juneteenth. We have our educational piece. We have our health piece that goes with it. And we also have our entertainment piece and the basketball tournament as well. And we do scholarships. So it's been a passion that we've enjoyed for years, and we're going to continue to do it as long as we can. Hopefully our kids will pick it up and continue to move forward with it.
Good. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for that. Because, our kids, I don't have grandkids yet. You do, but they need to know. And even their kids need to know, and celebrate and honor Juneteenth.
Well, we expose them to everything that we can that's Black, and we try to let them know who they are and where their heritage comes from. And they're small. We have a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old who is really active now. She's really active, and then a couple of older ones. One's 19 and one's 22. So they understand, they participate, and I think it's important that families do the same thing.
I agree. And you guys do a good job of making sure when you have events, your family's there.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I can see your family at an event. I may not see them any other time, but I know I do. So another thing I want to highlight that I think it's a crystal clear moment that people may not know about, and I like to hear some background. And I know this is something that you do with your wife, Lynette. Is the Black Rodeo. Now, so let me tell you a quick story. My mother is a cowgirl. Like she likes cowboy hats. She likes Westerns. She's always enjoyed that. So when she would come and visit me, I would take her to the rodeo, and she really enjoyed it.
Great.
That was her thing, and she would go back and tell her friends. So she likes that. It's nice to have that event because that is for sure a family event with history and showing things. So, what was the crystal clear moment when you and Lynette said, let's do this?
Well, we initially started out working as promoters for the Bill Pickett Rodeo when it came to Phoenix.
That,
and so they needed some local people to bring some people to the shows, expose it, help them get sponsors and all those things. And so I was like, hey, that's something that we need to get involved with. And so we did it for Bill Pickett for about 2 or 3 years. And, there was some some funds to be made at the same time. Unfortunately, we weren't the ones making the money. We were doing all the work, but they would just come in, take the money, and leave. Wouldn't drop scholarships or anything to our kids. So we decided we can do this ourselves. And so we disassociated from Bill Pickett back in, I want to say 2005, something like that, maybe a little longer. And we started out doing our own thing. My wife figured out how to go get the stock. I did all the PR, marketing, etc. And we recruited some cowboys, and people like to come.
Love to come. You guys sell out every time.
Yeah, we started out. It didn't start out that way.
I actually can remember. You're right, because it was outside and it was rawhide and it was hot. That first show was hot.
It was hot, and then we decided to move it into. We wanted to do it in February in Black History, but the weather was always bad. It started raining.
I remember a couple of those.
We had one show where there was maybe 30 people in the stands.
Yeah, was that the one that rained out?
Yeah. Well, it didn't rain. They wanted to stay. They stayed and said, we want to see a rodeo. And so they sat there in the stands. Our cowboys said, if they want to see it, we're going to do it.
Wow, that's good.
Sliding all through the mud, people out there freezing, but they sat there and watched that rodeo. And so we learned something about that people really like it and they want to be a part of it regardless of the weather. And so we stayed there for quite a few years until we just moved recently over the last 3 years to Westworld in Scottsdale. That's nice. That was the godsend.
Yeah, that's next level there.
Even though we had sold out all of our shows at Rawhide, Westworld gave us an opportunity to sell out more because of the fact that it was indoors. And even though it was hot, it was indoors. It had more seating. It had better amenities. It was just a first-class operation. And so we expanded to that, and we've been there ever since. Since then, we've added on 6 or 7 more rodeos that we do nationwide. From the Arizona Black Rodeo, we've expanded to Black Rodeo USA. So now we do Nashville, Tennessee, Okmulgee, Oklahoma, Bakersfield, California, Jacksonville, Florida, and then we do Las Vegas. So we do those every year, and we're looking to add on more. People call us every year and say they want to have a rodeo come. It's just how do we make it work logistically?
Yeah, that's congratulations.
So it's been fun. It's been an educational piece. People haven't learned about black cowboys until we taught them about them.
Absolutely.
And so we try to give some information on that. Have our brochures give you a little information about black cowboys and the history. So, like you said, it's a family event,
really is.
And it turns into a lot of fun.
It does. It is a lot of fun. I think that's what it's almost like. A little Halloween because everybody get to dress up like cowboys and cowgirls, and I always get a kick out of seeing like the little kids, like the little ones. They come with their holsters, their little guns, and their little vests, and they walk in serious. So it's really cute, and it is. It's a good time, and again, we look forward to supporting that.
And the grown-ups, they dress up too.
Oh yeah, that some of them we be like, okay, you may not.
You don't want to wear that.
You don't want to wear that outfit. I mean, you probably should not put that on. But yeah, people dress up, all ages, so it makes it a lot of fun.
So a passion turned into a successful business. So we're doing well with that one.
That's actually a good point because I think people, and that's actually could be just a crystal clear moment for listeners because oftentimes passions can turn into business.
Well, look at yourself. I mean, what you've done. I remember, how we used to, you and Ivan and the family used to be out doing things. And he said, man, Crystal's going to start doing this. And I'm like, well, that's great. I mean, if that's what she loves to do, it's going to work out. And look where you are today. I congratulate you for everything you've done and looking forward to see you continue to do great things.
I appreciate that passion. Like now the money comes after that, right?
Yes.
As you said, I'm following your tip here. So no, but thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And you've been so supportive of just us, our family, just in general, your family has. And,
definitely.
This has been so much fun chatting with you. And I've always wanted to hear these stories. I love hearing stories about people who are activists in the community. I come from a family that are very community driven. My father, was very much so active in the community. So being part and lifting up our people is part of my DNA. So I've always glimpsed at what was going on in your sphere and always watched that and just always thought it was... Thought it was cool. It's hard work. People don't get it. You have to be born with that gift, right? It's not for everybody.
No, it takes a lot of patience.
That's got to be because you're dealing with Everybody.
Different egos, a lot of different issues, and everybody's the most important person that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So that makes it fun.
But you have a way with you're good with building relationships, and you're good with seeing the person, whoever you're speaking to, you make them that important person. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a gift in itself.
Well, I was taught that you treat everybody with respect, the way you would want to be treated, and whatever is important to them at that time, you should take the time to appreciate that they've come to you to discuss it. And so I really do.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, that's genuine. That's for real genuine. So what's up? What's next for you? What's your next your crystal clear moment that you're waiting for at this part in your life during this season?
I'm still doing so many things right now. We're getting ready to hold the African American Legislative Conference at the state capitol coming up in February during Black History Month. So that'll be February 7th through the 9th at the state capitol, and some other things. So that's a really big issue in a big program that we do each year. I'm really excited about that. This will be our 22nd year of doing it.
That's good.
So we've been doing it for a long time, ever since I started into the legislature, and before that, along with Senator Leah Landrum Taylor. So that's a big deal. We'll be going back on the road this year, back to the rodeo circuit to do our thing there. Excited because my granddaughter's now riding horses.
Oh, really?
Doing her thing.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So she wants to be a barrel racer. So we picked up a couple of more horses, and I'm going to try to do some things for her. It's just right now, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
So, I just want to enjoy life.
You're still doing stuff. You're still busy.
Well, I want to enjoy life and still be able to help. Once you start slowing down, then you start dying.
Yeah,
and
I
so
agree.
that's something that I don't want to do. So those things, whatever happens and whatever comes up next, there's always a challenge that comes up. So I'm always looking forward to the next challenge.
Good. Thank you. Well, thank you for what you do for our community. Thank you for what you do for Black media. Thank you for being a cool friend. Thank you for giving my husband a hard time on the golf course, because he always telling me the stories, the Clovis Campbell stories on the golf course, be cracking me up. Now you got my son out there, and guys are out there having a good time. So, we appreciate just the friendship. So you guys, thank you for listening to Crystal Clear Moments. Thank you, Clovis, for being my guest. Please download, please rate me, and then write me a review. And if you have any questions and concerns, you can always send me an email at crystal@crystalblackwell.com. Thank you.